Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
And I'm Debbie Rowley.
And you are listening to the midweek version of Fiber Talk, that twice weekly podcast for people who, I think stab ground cloth today. Yeah. 2 days of a trade show and back. Yeah, we're stabbing ground cloth today and tonight when I actually stitch. Yep.
Well, you need to because, stitching is so therapeutic.
Yeah. I need therapeutic. So
yes, and you need the stress release.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. That a beer is not going to provide. Yes. So.
But your counting may be a little less, I don't know, tedious.
True.
Just relax, have a beer, and go with it.
Okay. Yeah, and then rip out whatever gets screwed up. Yeah. Okay.
Oh no! See, the beer makes you not care.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I see the plan. Okay. I can work with that.
Okay.
So yeah, Debbie, thanks for doing this week. Now, lots of people have asked about Christine, and we're just at a point where Christine's job and health and everything have pretty much just demanded a hiatus for her, and hope she'll be back soon. But right now we have a new plan for the Wednesday show, and that plan is Vanna is going to do every other week, and then in the interim weeks, Debbie and Arlene are going to join me, so that it isn't just me yammering at you every Wednesday. It's actually intelligent people that I can talk to. So so we'll have Vanna, Arlene, and Debbie trading off until Christine is able to rejoin us. So that's lots of people have been asking, and pray for her. She needs,
yes, and I feel like I know Christine, even though I've never met her, just from listening to Fiber Talk. And so when you communicate with her, do convey to her that a lot of us care about her and are thinking of her.
I will do that. So that's the lowdown. Now we have this one is fun. Vicki Palmer. Well, first, Beth in Illinois. No, I have not bought any new books. I'm still hanging in there. We're halfway through January. I have not bought a new book. So there you have that. And then listener Vicki Palmer writing a couple of comments. Really appreciate comments. If I don't respond to comments, it's just because time. I left Sunday afternoon for a trade show, and 2 solid days, Monday and Tuesday, and back today to a mountain of work. And at trade show Monday, I walked, I'm not exaggerating, I walked 10 miles Monday.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's, huge trade show. And yes, and then when I wasn't walking, I was standing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been a vendor at trade shows. I completely understand.
They will drain you to the bone.
Yes.
Yeah. So appreciate the comments, getting lots of comments and thoughts from people. So really appreciate it. Vicki Palmer writing in response to our show Sunday with Margaret Bendig. And this is the part that you and I think, can relate to. Enjoyed Margaret's references to don't wait until retirement to do what you love in regards to stitching. And you hear that about people where they're building up stash, and then when I retire, I'm going to dig in. And don't do that. Dig in now.
Yeah. Of course, I know Margaret, and I've had a class with her, and she's a lovely person. I really enjoyed the interview with her, but that was a wonderful takeaway from that. If there's something that you love to do, don't wait. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Find the time, make the time, shove something else aside, but do it.
When my kids were small and I was cross-stitching before I became a professional, I took something to stitch with me everywhere I went.
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing how much you can get stitched in 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. I would have a little project and, waiting at soccer practice or in the doctor's office or in the car pickup line or something like that. And I would just have a little project. It's always with me, scissors, needle, threads, instructions, just a small project. I stitched a lot in 10 and 15 minute bites.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I picked up on your New Year's resolution to stitch a little bit every day.
How are you doing with that?
Yeah, well, I failed.
Oh, well, see
Complete
now, no.
failure.
See now, so my intention when I set this goal for myself was to have it be a no guilt, no fault goal.
Okay.
Okay, because there's been one day since the turn of the new year that I haven't been able to stitch. It was yesterday. I traveled all day. I was exhausted after teaching, and I got home. We had dinner, and at 7:00, I was ready to go to bed.
Yep.
But we, of course, stayed up to a reasonable bedtime so we wouldn't wake up at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know what? I'm just too tired because it wasn't there ready for me to stitch. It was still in the bag. I would have to get the canvas out, put it on the frame, get the threads out, get the tools out, all that other kind. It wasn't just a matter of, oh, I can just pull off a length and stitch a little bit. No, it would have involved some setup. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to stitch tonight. And I don't feel guilty about it because, I'm not going to kill myself to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have stitched, and I will tell you this though. I have stitched every day except for yesterday since the first of the year. And it is, I'm excited about stitching again. I mean, that sounds kind of weird. It is not, it moved it from this is a chore and I must do this in order to get this project done so I can meet this deadline, that deadline,
right,
or whatever. And it's more of, I'm excited about stitching. I'm excited to see how a project is developing, and just because my mindset is not that I have to stitch, but that I get to stitch.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you build a momentum, I think, don't you?
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, and that makes it even more fun because you see progress, and yeah, you get to stitch. Yeah, I think you develop a different mindset, and that's because when I'm able to do it multiple days in a row, I start to feel that, and then it's like, give me more. And yeah, because now this trip, I had to leave Sunday afternoon, and so Sunday morning, all right, what am I going to take to stitch on? And then I looked at my schedule and I realized I'll just be hauling it along just to haul it. There was no way. And
well, yeah, I mean, and for people who don't go to trade shows and don't understand about trade shows, it is meeting, talking to vendors, talking to other merchandisers. I mean, it's constant, nonstop. Yes. And at the end of the day, you're so exhausted. All you want is what is on the room service menu that they can bring up to me in the next 5 minutes before I go to sleep.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Well, and that was my schedule was I had to be up. I was East Coast time, so I had to be there at 7 a.m, which was 6:00 my time. Yeah. And then I got back to the room at 9, and in there was a half-hour break. Otherwise, it was just wall to wall. And so I left the stitching home. There was no point. And I knew when I got on that plane, the minute that door closed, I'd be asleep. And sure enough, wasn't going to happen. But that's, so I have not, we're 15 days into the 16 days, whatever it is, into the month. Yeah, I'm probably 8 out of that where I've actually stitched. So,
well, that's great.
Yeah. All right. No guilt. Okay. There's no guilt. I got to put that into the deal.
That's right. It's no guilt, no stress.
All right. Yeah. And Vicki, Margaret's right. Don't wait. Nobody wait.
Well, and the thing about, it's a goal as opposed to being a resolution. It's a goal. And I had a pastor who once said, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time.
Yes.
So this is something to aim at.
Yep. And then I've had several people in the Facebook groups, but somebody on Instagram talking about just in the last couple of weeks about how they'd lost their enthusiasm for stitching or their energy for stitching. And most of them, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And I think I've talked about this before. I mean, to me, go try a different technique. try and learn something different. Go do some hardanger, do some cross stitch if you're a needlepointer, or vice versa. Try something that just completely flips things over for you, and see if that, because we all have enough thread and stuff that you don't really have to invest,
Yeah, you don't have to go buy anything, and there's enough free projects available online that chances are you could find a free project
Right.
and a technique that you're not accustomed to: black work, hardanger, canvas work, like just about everything except a painted canvas, and try something new.
Yep. Yeah. You might. Yeah. Likely you'll enjoy it, but either way, it just flips a different switch and gets you thinking about it, and I bet you snap out of it in a hurry.
Yeah, I think so too.
But then, maybe for you, maybe not so much for you, but then I think we all go through phases where we just don't. You just don't for a while. You don't stitch, and then it comes back. I think that happens.
I think that does too, and I think that like I didn't want to stitch yesterday because everything wasn't set up. I think having something set up and ready to go is the biggest factor to that. I mean, if you have to constantly put things away and you can't leave them out, and I understand that there are some people that this is their situation, and I bless them. I feel sorry for them, because my husband and I were talking about when we move to the new house, where all will I have a stitching station? Because I plan to have one in my office. I plan to have one in the kitchen where, we will have a television and some recliners. I plan to have one in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have something set up, ready to go, it's much easier to just, I'm just going to put in one length.
Yep.
Then, I've got to get everything out. And then I have to, find the thread. And then I have to decide what I'm going to stitch. And then I have to, and you set up all these barriers for yourself. So make it easy. Have something ready to go so that when you can stitch, you've got something to go.
Yeah, and I agree. That I have the same setup where it's all just sitting there. All I got to do when I go down to the family room is make a left and stay out of that recliner, and and I'm off and running. But I go to the recliner and it's all over, so I just have to make a left-hand turn. But
so Gary, I was thinking about you the other day. What are you going to do when football is over?
Oh, drag racing will start.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's drag racing, and then there's Netflix and Amazon, and no, that's not a problem. That's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, I was worried about you that you wouldn't have anything to stitch to once football is over.
Oh no, I appreciate that, but no, there's plenty. Yeah, and I can watch. I watched an Avengers movie the other day, because we talked about many weeks ago. Those movies that you can watch and stitch, because you don't have to sit there and stare at them.
Right.
There's plenty of dialogue to carry, and so on and so forth. So yeah, the most recent Avengers movie was on. Perfect. I know the plot. I know I know the scenes. I know when to look up. Yeah, I was good. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And if you miss something with your DVR, just hit the back button and look at it.
That's right. That's why God gave us technology right there. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just hauling that out. And I have discovered what fun on Netflix and Amazon these comedy specials are, because that's a perfect thing.
You don't have to look up at all.
Right. Ellen DeGeneres has a new one out. I think it's on Netflix. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Yep. And when she's not talking and something funny happening, you look up and see what she's doing. But yeah. So I've been hitting the comedy. A lot of bad comics out there. Sorry, a lot of them. A lot of them.
And there's a lot of them that aren't very funny.
No. And being crude and rude does not make you funny.
No, it does not. It just makes you crude and rude.
Right. So yeah, those people get about 30 seconds and then I move on. But
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff there in the comedy, and that's another one. I've not done the audio book. I used to do the audio books I had a hour plus commute, and I did audiobooks a lot, and I have not done that since. And I probably should do that. But then if I do audiobooks, I have so many podcasts that I like to listen to that I probably would migrate there. But audiobooks are great.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, you know, a lot of people like to listen to this little podcast called Fiber Talk while they're stitching.
Yeah, please. Please.
Yes, please listen.
Well, this is number 84. Yeah, so there's after this one, it'll be 184 hours of needlework talk to listen to.
Hours? Don't you mean closer to 300?
No, it's 184 shows, all about an hour long.
Well, every time I talk to you, it winds up being way more than an hour.
Well, okay, all right. So 184 plus 6. All right. Exactly, yes, yeah, because the last one was an hour and a half. Yes, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Sorry,
well, you
folks.
get to talking, and you just, you know, it's like when you're with your stitch group, and you just don't, everybody sits there until it's like, oh, you know what? It's 9:30. It's time to go home.
Yeah. How'd that happen? Yeah. So, and then Vicki Palmer asking also, I think I touched on it last week with Vanna. Anyway, about preparing linen. And this isn't something you do, but she said, could I give hints process for accurate cutting of linen? What if the larger piece of linen is not cut properly? Will that affect your cutting of a smaller size? Well, no. Because, for instance, this yard of linen that I cut up here just the other day or 2 weeks ago or whatever for the linen and thread stitch along, I had to get past I want to have a yard of it. I want to cut an 18 by 18 precisely out of that. Once I got past that, I just measured out a little over 18 by 18, made little snips on the edges, and then with scissors just cut as straight as I could to cut out that square. And then here's the process. She didn't ask this, but here's the process I use, and this is stolen from people or advice I've gotten from people. So when it comes to linen, when I mount the linen to stitch, it has to be perfect. There can't be any wrinkles. There can't be anything. It's got to be. That's just the way I am. I can't have those creases. I can't stand them. And so when I cut out a piece of linen, then the first thing I do is I square it off. And I square it off by, and for veterans, this is all common knowledge, but there's just, that's something I wanted to bring up with you, Debbie, is this with your teaching, because we're going to talk about your teaching here in a little bit, is we have to remember that there are new people all the time coming into the hobby looking for advice that people who've been around forever just find to be old hat. And we have to, I think those who have stitched for a long time, it's on us and to keep sharing that information, because there's always people. You go to any Facebook group, I'm just starting. Can somebody help me figure out what Ada cloth is, or what 18 count canvas is? They just don't know, and there's a ton of people who do. So,
well, yes, I agree with you to a certain extent. Where I am going to disagree with you is that there are some self-appointed needlework police out there that insist
those
that
people
if you don't do it their way, then you're not doing it properly or correctly. And somehow or another, they manage to suck every bit of joy right out of stitching because you must do it exactly the way that they're telling you to do it. I don't subscribe to that philosophy. I was thinking about this when I was coming back from my meeting today. When little kids learn how to play soccer, okay, the U5, did your kids play soccer?
No.
Okay. But, if they played a sport or anything, the little ones, when they're just starting out, well, with t-ball or with soccer or whatever, it's basically, here's the ball, kick it. Mm-hmm. Kick it into this goal. Mm-hmm. And they don't worry about, I think the first penalty that they really worry about is a handball. I think that's it with that age group. And then the next age group, Okay, when you do a throw in, you need to make sure that your feet are on the ground. And, so when you watch the under 8s doing throw ins from the sidelines, and most of the time they're jumping. And so, no, the referee makes them do it over again. And if they do it wrong 2 or 3 times in a row, then he gives the ball to the other team. And then as they get older, then they begin to add in some of the other refinements, like playing your position and offsides penalties and things like that. But they don't start the 5-year-olds off with the same rules that the college players are doing. And I think that, especially with beginners, if they can get a threaded needle into a piece of fabric, however they do that is fine.
Yes.
If it makes them happy, and they're proud of their accomplishment, I think that's super, and we should support them in that. Then if they ask, if they ask, then we can show them, your stitching might be prettier if you put it in a hoop. Or, when I start and stop a thread, this is how I do it, and show them. Or, I see that you're trying to separate strands of floss. Can I show you an easier way? And help them that way instead of coming in and go, oh, no, you're doing it all wrong. What? You're using a size 24 needle instead of a 26? Oh, my goodness. And we get the vapors and faint, get out the smelling salts. And, you were talking with Vanna about people who stitch on Ada and being ashamed of stitching it.
Oh, yeah. I don't get that. I don't get that at all.
I don't get that at all. And if you were doing a heaven and earth design where the whole thing is completely covered, why not do it on Ada? What
Really?
difference does it make?
Yep.
No one's going to see any of the fabric at all.
Nope.
And it will not make any difference at all.
Nope.
So, as long as we're not being the needlepoint police, yes, we need to help people enjoy their hobby more, but we can't do it in a way that makes them think, oh, well, I'm not doing this right, so I better stop doing it.
Yeah, because you just killed the joy right there. Yep. Yeah, that was a policy, and Vicki, we'll get back to the linen in just a second, but, hey, sorry. That was a policy when Christine and I were doing the Reef Aquarium podcast. That was the catalyst for that. Was there were so many forums with so much advice, because you can imagine in a marine aquarium how many thousands of ways there are to do everything.
Right.
But we would frequently see blatant bad advice, like you're going to kill animals if you do it this way. And so that's kind of why we started Reef Threads, and that's where the thread comes in, is we would take these bad threads and in a forum and correct them. Right. And one of the things that I learned in that thing, and I still do it today in needlework, is it was my policy that if someone gave advice on a topic, do it this way, then I would go and see if I could find 2 or 3 others who gave the same advice. And then that told me, all right, there's probably some validity in this. Because oftentimes in forums, in Facebook groups, any of them, there'll be people who are extremely active and are always passing out advice.
Yes.
And sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
Yes.
So for me, it would be, all right, just like if you're evaluating a news story, all right, can I find that same identical story in 2 other places? If so, must be true. Right. And so that was the policy I took. So anytime I have any questions, I still do that. I comb the internet, and when I find 3 or 4 that, yeah, this is the same approach here, and oftentimes then I'll find something I like better, a different approach, and come away with it. But yeah, it's a little extra research doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't. And I think as long as those of us who have been stitching for some time keep paramount and uppermost in our minds that this should be fun.
Yep.
If what I'm about to say is going to lessen the fun for somebody, maybe I shouldn't say it. Or maybe I should find a different way to say it so that it is encouraging and supportive and not negative.
Yep. Well, see, in hearing you probably don't think about this anymore because I'm sure it's second nature. But in hearing you and the way you would approach helping someone, your approach each time gives them the opportunity to say no thanks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's up to them to say yes, show me, or no, I got this. And to me that's key. I hear that every time that I hear you give advice. That opportunity is there for them to say no or to welcome your advice. And I think that's just absolutely key. And I'm sure that comes out of years and years and many, many classes of stitching where you've probably stepped in it a couple of times. But, that to me, that's just key because then that doesn't kill the joy.
Right. I mean, and it's fun. We're supposed to be having fun.
Right. Yes.
Babies are not going to die if I thread my needle differently from the way you do.
No, they're not. And I still use a needle threader. I don't care.
Hey, if that is what allows you to proceed and stitch and do the thing that you want to do, who cares?
Yep. I'm amazed when I watch FlossTube and people are doing a stitch with me. They'll thread those needles without a needle threader like it's nothing, like it's a gaping hole. Man, I can't do that. I just sit there and fiddle around. Finally, I just forget it. They gave me a tool. I'm using it.
Yeah. Well, see, and I hardly ever use a needle threader.
I know, and I don't know how you do it.
Well, the only time I really use a needle threader is if it's a beading needle.
Oh, yeah, well, there.
But otherwise, I know how to do it. It's like who were you talking to? You were talking to somebody and she says she regularly threads the needle without looking at it and amazes her students when she does so.
Yeah.
And I can do that too.
Well, I'll tell you, I tip my cap because I got to have a needle threader. Just, yeah.
Then go for it.
Yep, I do.
And who cares? I mean, I don't care if you use a needle threader.
The thread gets through the needle, so hey.
Absolutely.
Yep. Hey, and I was looking for something over the weekend. Yeah, I was looking for something over the weekend because I'd purchased some needle threaders, and all of a sudden I didn't have any. What? Wait a minute. What did I do? I didn't lose all those. I found them. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm well armed now. They're everywhere.
Okay, so back to preparing linen, yes. Because I'm sure that Vicki is sitting there going, "Get back to it."
Sorry, Vicki. So you rough cut it out, and then I start pulling threads from the linen on each side until I'm able to pull one piece of linen, one thread of linen, the entire length of that side.
Right.
Then that tells me I'm square. And so when I do that on all four sides, then I know I'm square. Then I get out my wheel cutter, my rotary cutter, and my cutting board and trim off all that fringe.
Right.
Then I know I have a square piece of linen without having to, because if you try and cut it, linen never lies square.
Oh, no,
Ever.
It never does.
No. So, and then I take it to the sewing machine and put a edge on it. I forget what stitch it is, but any, zigzag stitch, whatever stitch it is that overcasts all the way around.
That's what it's called.
That's what it is. Okay, overcast.
Overcast.
Making a note right now. Next time it's overcast. Okay, got it. So I overcast it, and then I still have this wrinkled, creased piece. And I learned this from somebody in one of our early podcasts. So I go to get a Tupperware bowl of appropriate size, depending on how big the piece of linen is. Put just the smallest dab of Dawn detergent in the thing, and then run tepid water, not hot. You don't want to shrink this thing unless you're going to use it where it needs to be shrunk. And if you're going to use it where it needs to be shrunk, go to Mary Corbett's site. She has a whole process for how to properly shrink linen so that when you stitch on it, a dish towel or whatever it is, that it won't shrink anymore. Go follow that. Beyond me. I don't have any interest. But so I use tepid water and this Dawn, and I swish this linen around in this little bit of soap and get it thoroughly soaked. And it maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes, not very long. and then several rinses to make sure all the soap is out.
Right.
And that gets the linen thoroughly wet and all broken down. And then I roll it up. I take a towel, usually lay it on the floor, and lay the linen on that as square as I can make it. And, of course, it's all wrinkled up now. And then roll it up in a towel. I use a bath towel, so there's plenty of thickness. And then I stand on that roll and walk back and forth, side to side on that roll, and that sucks most of the moisture out. And so then you have a little more than damp piece of linen. Then I go to the ironing board with iron on full steam and on the linen setting, which is usually the hottest setting, and I just iron that thing. And it looks wrinkled, and it gets a little less wrinkled, and it's one of those magical things where it reaches some point, and then all the wrinkles go away. And then when that's done, then I'm ready to stitch. So then I'll put that somewhere where it can cool off and thoroughly dry out, and then I can put it on my Q-snaps or my scroll frame or whatever. But then I have no wrinkles, and then I feel like I'm ready to stitch. No creases, no nothing, and the whole process, I don't know, a couple hours of monkeying around. If I stay at it pretty steady, a couple hours, and then I've got a piece that I can stitch. And so that's the process that I use, and it has worked without fail for me. And then when I sit down to stitch, then it is one pristine, smooth piece of linen. And if I'm going to store it, then what I'll do is I'll take and I don't use cardboard. I'll use a piece of PVC pipe, and I'll wrap it in acid-free paper, tissue paper, and then I'll wrap the linen around the tube, and then put acid-free tissue paper over it, and then put it in a plastic bag or something. That way it stays, so it won't get any creases. And
wow, I'm impressed.
Well, that's what I do. So like sometimes if I have
that stuff, so
if I have 2 or 3 projects, then I'll do all of the linen at once, and then put it on a piece of PVC pipe. And you can go, like PVC pipe, you can go and get scraps at Home Depot or pre-cut pieces for nothing. I mean, they're nothing. Yeah. That way I know I have a rigid piece. I don't have to worry about acid. If I end up storing it a long time, acid from the cardboard of a cardboard tube. So that I go to all that trouble. And right now I have a piece of PVC with 3 or 4 pieces of linen wrapped on it, all between layers of tissue paper, acid-free tissue paper, that I know that I can, when I'm ready to do that project, I just peel it off and I'm ready to go. And so that's all I go through, Vicki. If you want to be as picky as me, that's what I do. So I don't know. And and some people will just stitch and have the creases and then count on the framing process to take them out. Or if they're using DMC, you can wash that afterwards and iron them out. But
yeah. See, I'm of the philosophy, and I'm sure. Okay, everybody can get their smelling salts now because I'm going to give you the vapors. I don't ever wash a piece. I never washed my pieces after I stitched them when I was stitching on linen. When I was doing cross stitch, I just never did.
Yeah, I don't.
And I never washed the fabric beforehand either. I mean, a lot of times, especially if I was working on hand dyed fabrics, I'm not messing with them.
Yeah.
I might iron them if they came to me folded. I might iron them and get the fold out of it, but that was the extent of what I did to prep a piece of fabric for stitching.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and I should mention Best Press. Now, Vanna's jumping up and down right now because I didn't mention Best Press, so I'm getting that in. That is one magic little solution right there. Spray that on your thing, and it irons out just about everything.
What is it, a wrinkle relaxer?
Yeah, as far as I know.
And it doesn't put any residue or anything on the fabric?
No.
Okay.
No. It's not a starch. And
right.
You just spray it on and iron, and it makes things go away. It really does.
Cool.
Yeah. That's Vanna's favorite tool right there.
If I need to stitch on fabric and need to prep my fabric beyond getting it out, I'll remember that.
Okay. But now I have a question for you when it
Okay.
comes to needlepoint canvas.
Okay.
What do you do, maybe nothing, if there's a crease in the needlepoint canvas?
Okay, if there's a crease in the needlepoint canvas, you just throw that away and get you a different piece.
Okay. Okay, good, because I've never found a good solution for that. So.
Well, there isn't one. And if you order needlepoint canvas, it should come to you rolled,
Yes.
not folded. If it's folded, and especially Congress cloth cannot be folded. It needs to be rolled. Now, sometimes, if it was, kind of wrinkled on the edges, that was going to be outside of the stitching area, that was just going to be, I like to have 3 inches on each side of the design. So if the design size is 8 by 8, then I would have it on 14 inch. I would have a 14-inch cut of canvas. So if the wrinkles or a crease or, sometimes there's smudges or flaws in the canvas, if they are outside of that design area, I just put them on my stretch bars and don't worry about it, because it's not going to show. It's going to be folded away or cut away in the finishing process. But
Yes.
if there's a flaw or a smudge or something right in the center of the design area, then that's unusable. You can't wash canvas. I've never tried to wash canvas. I have been somewhat successful if I got, a smudge or something while I was stitching and couldn't start over, taking a Q-tip with a little water on it and just gently dabbing until whatever it was came out.
Mm-hmm.
No soap, nothing else, just a little bit of water on a Q-tip and just gently dab. And you don't want to saturate the canvas at any rate.
Right. Because, then it just goes, the starch goes out and it just gets.
Yes, it loses the sizing, and it's not very nice to stitch on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And it won't hold up to some of the kinds of stitches that I do. I imagine if I were just basket weaving, that would be one thing. But a lot of the stitches that I do are long stitches that require a certain firmness to the canvas.
Yes.
So that the stitch will hold its shape.
Right. Yeah. Otherwise, like a Jessica stitch will just collapse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Or a crescent, or an Amadeus, or a walnutto, or a double fan doubled. They're not going to maintain their integrity.
Yeah.
If the canvas loses its sizing.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Because I've had a couple creased ones and I didn't use them because I didn't want to deal with the crease. But
Right.
I've often wondered if there was some trick. So the trick is throw them in the basket. Okay.
Yep.
And
cut around it.
Yeah.
Use it for an ornament, a doodle cloth or whatever, but it's not going to, you won't be pleased with the results.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. Yeah, that's probably not trash. That's a good doodle cloth.
Right.
Yeah. There's plenty of space there to make your mistakes. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Just wondered if you had some little trick. You don't.
No, there's no trick.
Okay. All right. Now, we're already, as it happens every stinking time, we're going to run out of time. So I'm going to do this promo, and then I want to hear about Canvas 2019. So,
Okay.
all right. So I want everybody to remember now, we've talked many times with Debbie about the Needlearts Mystery Retreat. And this year it's July 17 to 20. That Wednesday night, the 17th, is when they reveal the design. And so if you're going, you want to be there for that because that's cool. It's in Baltimore, and we're at the Staybridge Suites, Baltimore, Inner Harbor, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And if you're a previous participant, you can register now up to the 31st, and then it opens to everyone. $375 for the kit and the fee, and then $50 is not refundable after May 15. So, and I'll put a link, the Needlearts Mystery Retreat, on this page, on the page for this podcast, so that you can find that. But one of the truly cool events that happens in Needlearts every year, I think, So there, Baltimore, July 17 to 20. Now, two pieces of advice. Now, I've been to Baltimore a lot for conferences.
Okay.
And I was really glad to see that your hotel's in the Inner Harbor, because Baltimore sometimes
that's the cool place.
Yes, and Baltimore sometimes gets a bad reputation, which I don't know if it's fair or not, but I've always enjoyed Baltimore. I really like going there, but that whole Inner Harbor area is fantastic. Shopping, sights to see, the aquarium there. I haven't been in several years, but the aquarium there in the Inner Harbor is very nice. And when I was last there, and I got to believe they're still doing it, they had a massive collection of poison dart frogs. And they're the very small, very colorful frogs that live in rainforests. And if you touch their skin in the wild,
right.
The ugly things happen to you. But
right.
At the time, they were the premier research and breeding facility in at least the country, if not the world, captive for poison dart frogs, to the point where they were raising some frogs that were going extinct and repopulating the jungles.
Wow.
Yeah, and I got to believe it's still there, though it has been a few years since I've been to the aquarium. But either way, the aquarium is worth going to. And then within relative walking distance of the Inner Harbor is the B&O Railroad Museum, which I know it's old steam engine stuff, but they have this beautifully finished roundhouse that's just gorgeous, and that's worth seeing. And so I was really glad to see you were in the Inner Harbor. And then I have to tell you, I have a rule about seafood. I love seafood, particularly shellfish, but I have rules about it.
Okay.
And one of the rules is if I'm having crab cakes or crab, I just, as a rule, do not get them anywhere other than the Baltimore area.
Yeah, see, I'm already planning to have crab cakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day that I'm there.
Well, this is why I put this down. Now, this is in Linthicum Heights, and it's really out closer to the airport. But G&M Restaurant, and I'll put the address, 804 North Hammonds Ferry Road in Linthicum Heights. It's outside. If you're downtown, it's like maybe a half-hour drive, tops. Oh, crab cakes to die for.
I think I've eaten there.
Have you?
Mm-hmm, I think so.
Yeah, it's not
I've been in the Baltimore area a few times, and I think that one of the times I was there, we made an excursion to that restaurant.
Okay, yeah. I would believe that you have, because I encountered it. I was staying out by the airport one time, and I said to the person at the desk, I want crab cakes. I'm in Baltimore. I need crab cakes. She said, well, go to this place. So I went there and sat down, and what do you want? I want crab cakes. I'll have 2. And the server looked at me like I was nuts. And I said, no, I want 2 crab cakes. She said, okay, you get 2 crab cakes. Oh, they were between baseball and softball sized, though not fully round, like semi-flat.
Right.
Solid crab meat, no filler, solid chunks of crab meat. I could not eat both. And, I was getting that. Yeah, I tried to tell you.
Yeah.
and the rest of the food is fantastic there too. So yeah, highly recommend that if people are looking for a good seafood dinner with crab cakes, and it sounds like if you even recognize it a little bit, you've been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to see now. Can I get to Baltimore in July? I have to see. Okay.
Well, if you do, I'll be gravely disappointed if you don't join us.
Okay. Well, the only reason I go there in July would be to join you. So there we have it. Okay, so there's the plug. July 17 to 20, Needlearts Mystery Retreat. One of the truly cool things. Look back in some of our previous podcasts. We talk about it. And last year, I think it was, we had everybody, all 4 of you designers. 2 years ago.
I don't know if it was last year or the year before when we were in Chicago.
Yeah, look that up. Yeah, so you get a real gist of it. It's just cool. Okay, that's the plug. All right, now you just got back from teaching at Canvas. This is the name of the event. Canvas is the event 2019. And
Well, it's actually Canvas, A Needlepoint Adventure.
Oh my, okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, I want to know about this.
It was a lot of fun. It's a relatively new event, and some of the same people who were involved with Callaway are involved with Canvas, A Needlepoint Adventure. Let me make sure I get it all in. But it's okay if you just say Canvas. The classes are already scheduled for next year. I will not be teaching there next year because I didn't get proposals in time. But Curdy Biggs is teaching, Tony Maneri, Kathy Reese, Julia Snyder, Robin King, Kelly Clark, and, there's probably some others that I'm not remembering. But it is a very nice retreat. It's very well done. Everything is right there in the hotel. The retreat includes lunch every day, and the lunches are good, and breaks twice a day with food. In fact, the people who were there were going, oh my gosh, we have to go eat again. Because like every hour and a half we were eating. But one of the things, and it's in Montgomery, Alabama, which is in the South. So that means the food is outstanding. And some of the morning breaks was hot biscuits.
Uh-oh.
With butter and honey
Uh-oh.
or jam and apple butter. And one afternoon, one of the breaks was chili and melted cheese and chips so you can make nachos. I mean, it's substantial, but that's included in the cost. And it's the pricing structure includes your hotel room, your meals, except for dinner, and your class. It does not include your kit for whatever class it is that you choose to take.
So this thing is a week long?
Well, they have 4-day classes and 2-day classes. And so you can go and take a 4-day class and then leave, or you could stay and take a 4-day class and a 2-day class. And now next year, they're offering 4-day classes, 2-day classes, and 3-day classes.
Oh.
And so, you can look and see which class structure is going to fit better for your own schedule. But it's a wonderful event. And Lee from the Needlebug is the organizer, Lee and Julia Snyder. And this year, Lee moved her entire shop, the Needlebug, to the hotel.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
Yes, it was.
Oh, that's really dangerous.
Yes, it was.
Did you have to check an extra bag when you got to the airport?
No, I did not, but I'm sure that there were others who did.
Uh-huh.
And Lee also, for people who were flying in, we were met at the airport and taken to the hotel. And then we were also taken from the hotel back to the airport when it was time to leave. She also plans there were a couple of receptions. I think there was a reception on Thursday night for those who were coming in for the classes that started on Friday. And then there was another reception on Monday night for those who were coming in for the classes that started on Tuesday.
Oh.
So, food again, more food. And
well, and the food you're describing, I mean, that's just aorta plugging food there. So that's wonderful stuff.
It's Southern. Okay.
That's perfect.
Yeah. It's awesome. It was awesome. Last year, they organized a tour to the Shakespeare Festival and had a curator take them through all of the costumes.
Oh.
And this year, we were supposed to go to the Montgomery Museum of Art, but something happened. I'm not sure what happened, and we weren't able to go, but we went to a historic home and had dinner there. And so, there's other events, and it's just a really nice time stitching with people, meeting people from other places. seeing what other people are doing, because during the breaks, part of it was walk around and look in the other classrooms and see what everybody else was doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, after classes, is a room you can just keep stitching, or people just...
Oh, nobody wants to do that.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure if people wanted to do that Lee would organize that so that you could go to a room and stitch if you wanted to. But honestly, after stitching for 6 hours, and it's not the kind of stitching that you do when you're, like if you were stitching at home on a Saturday and watching 3 football games. Mm-hmm. It's different because you're learning, and that requires a different part of your brain is activated, and it's more wearing.
Yes. Yes.
And so, honestly, after stitching in class for 6 hours, most people are not interested in stitching in the evening.
Enough.
Yeah, some people are. And, I also have to say, when you go to a stitching retreat or seminar or something like that, people are really surprised by how fatigued they become. Mm. But you're not in your own chair with your feet elevated, with the cushion behind your back, with the light just so. And it puts a strain on your body. And so you need to be aware of that when you go to a stitching, retreat or seminar or something like that, that you're physically going to hurt.
Yeah. Different.
Yeah, because you're in a different position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to keep in mind. Yeah. I
suppose
I
always remind my students of that because, they're just, well, I could just stitch all night. That's what they say the first morning. The third afternoon, they're like, oh my gosh, my back is killing me.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, but I was going to say, and I assume that there are breaks, but you already described there are breaks to get food. So,
well, yeah, and you get up and walk around and get something to drink and go to the bathroom and all that other kind of stuff.
Oh man, the food. Whoa.
Yes, the food's awesome.
That's lethal. Yeah. Oh. So what is, when you do these classes, I mean, you teach a ton of classes. Are there one or two hurdles that people, that pop up all the time that people need to get past or struggle to get past when it comes to stitching? Is there something that every time it seems like there's 2 or 3 people in a class who are struggling with some aspect? Do you run into that?
Yes. And what I notice more than anything else is people don't have confidence in what they're doing.
Oh.
Because, frequently they'll say, oh, I know I'm doing this wrong. And no, they were doing it exactly right. But their own mind keeps them from stitching and enjoying what they're doing. And the other thing they do is they compare themselves to other people in the class. Which, that's never a good thing.
Yeah.
And I always tell my students, stitch at your own pace. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing. You can stitch exactly what you want to in my class. I will instruct you and I will show you things. But if you want to stitch somewhere else, like if I've moved on to the next thing and you want to stay and finish what you were working on, that's perfectly fine with me. Because in every class, there's somebody who is like they have a motor on their needle. Okay.
What is the deal with that? There's always somebody who just... Oh, man, I'm so jealous of those people.
And you know what? When I take classes, I'm that person.
Are you? Great.
Yeah. I've actually finished projects in class before.
Oh, man.
And it greatly annoys the rest of the students.
Yes.
And it shouldn't because, I don't get to stitch other people's things very often. And so when I do, I put my head down and stitch. And,
Debbie's that person. Okay. All right.
I'm that person. And anyway, so I try to sit in the back and not bother anybody.
No, you're sitting in the back so people don't throw things at you. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and so when you take a class, don't compare yourself to what the person next to you is doing. It's counterproductive.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
So
Everybody,
that's good. That's good advice just in general, whether you're in a class or not.
because it's. I used to tell my daughter when she didn't get the part in choir that she wanted, and I said, you know what, honey, there's always people that are going to sing better than you, and there's always people that you're going to sing better than.
Yep.
So embrace where you are, and don't worry about anybody else.
Yep.
And that really holds true of stitching. There's always people who stitch faster than you. There's people who stitch slower than you. There are people who stitch more precisely than you do. There are people who stitch more sloppily than you do. So you stitch the way you want to at the speed that you want to stitch.
Yep.
And don't worry about what somebody else, tend to your own knitting.
So to speak. Yep. No, that's so true for so many things, because it will just suck the fun out of it.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does.
Because I'm doing this, I've gotten hooked up with my bike riding, this winter bike riding that your husband also does.
Yes.
With Zwift, which is basically an online video game for bike riders where I won't go into all the details. But anyway, I am not a fast rider. And I always say I'm not fast, but I'm persistent. I will get there. And this morning, they're doing this 9-stage thing in January. And
Rod's doing it.
Yeah. And Rod's impressing me. But it's...
Well, you impress him, too.
But it's tough riding. And for someone, I mean, all my riding is on flat roads in Illinois. And they don't know what a flat road is in this deal. And this morning, there were 375 people. And I rode in the A group, which is where the fast people ride for the longest distance. I finished dead last this morning by a good 5 minutes. I mean,
but you finished.
I finished, but that's the mentality I take with my bike riding, is just that if I try to keep up with these guys who think everything is a sprint in the Tour de France, I won't have any fun.
Right.
Because I'll be eternally frustrated. So
right.
I just ride. If I feel good, and today I did not feel good because I've been at a trade show for 2 days and my legs were killing me, I just got it done. And everybody's fast and they lapped me and they all blew by me on the second go around, and when I finished, there was no one on the course. But, that was the same thing. I finished. I don't care. And I got the thing in and I got a good workout. And, same thing with needlepoint, or needlework of any kind. Yeah. If you always chasing from Mr. Perfection here, but I've seen that suck the fun out of it for me, where you just, after a while, look, just stitch it and move on.
Yeah. Nothing I do is for a judged competition. Not a single thing I do is for a judged competition.
Yeah.
And, if that is your aspiration, then go for it, because you get to do your hobby the way you want to do your hobby, but that's not the way I want to do it. And so I don't.
Yeah. To me, it's always that you always have to keep that guard up, that you go so far into it that it's no longer fun.
Right.
And you have to stay on this side of that wall and enjoy it. And, I learned that with cycling, because in the cycling world, you learn very, very quickly that there's always 100 guys 5 times faster than you, always.
Yes, it can be a very humbling experience.
Oh man. Oh, geez. But it's, it's the same thing. And so long ago, I just said, I'm going to ride what I ride because I enjoy it. And same thing with needlework. Yep. I'm going to stitch what I stitch at my pace, the things that interest me, and enjoy it.
Yep.
All right. Once again, we had a list. We did pretty well, though.
We did talk about a couple of the things that were on the list. I think we did really well.
Yes, we did. Not bad. So that just means, then, the next time that you do a Wednesday show, we've got stuff already ready to go.
Absolutely.
That we won't get to.
Because there'll be 40 other things between now and then.
Right. So that's okay. So we'll just leave it to the listeners to wonder what those things were.
Yep. Maybe eventually they'll find out.
Maybe they will. All right, Sunday. So needless to say, we got to wrap this up. So Sunday, Ilke Cochran of Mabel Figworthy's Fancies. Now, Ilke is, she's the one that was taking her little monthly lessons that I got my fingers into hardanger. But she is one of those that stitches several techniques: gold work, black work, hardanger, that stuff with the mirrors, where you took mirror type things and stitch, and I can't think of the name of it right now.
Shisha?
Yeah, that one. Cross stitch. She does it all and teaches and designs, and from England. Had a tremendous conversation with her about all of that, and then just needlework in general. And what a terrific lady. So that'll be Sunday, Ilke Cochran. And Mabel Figworthy, Mabel Figworthy's Fancies is the name of her website and business, and so you get to learn where that comes from. And so she's our guest Sunday, and that's going to be enough. Debbie, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Ton of fun. Ilke Cochran Sunday, and I believe Vanna next Wednesday. So there's the deal. Thanks for listening.